G'day, it's Red Nectar. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote a little article, ACI and the HyperFlex Hiccup. And that was about the problems we were having with HyperFlex when one of these storage controller VMs failed over the management IP address, which in our case was 172.16.19.30, to one of the other storage controller VMs. And my management PC, which is the one we're recording right here, would lose contact. Now, the problem was that we have this on first generation ACI equipment, and we did not have the setting set here for endpoint controls for IP aging. We didn't have that enabled. And so the HyperFlex management IP address would never get relearned by the default gateway IP address and the ACI fabric. Now, once we'd enabled that, the IP aging, then at 75% of the timer for this 172.16.19.30, ACI would then send out ARP requests to renew the binding, and that would get things going again. But at 75% of the timer, the timer's by default is 15 minutes. That's still 12 minutes of waiting. So I had a look around and see what else we could do. And it turns out that if you go and have a look at your layer 3 configurations for the bridge domain, there's an option here for EP, endpoint move detection mode, GARP based detection. But the trick with that is that that's not enabled by default, or that doesn't appear by default. To make that appear, you've actually got to go back here to General and make sure that ARP flooding is enabled. The moment you disable ARP flooding, that option disappears from here. So the two things we had to do. We had to enable ARP flooding. Once ARP flooding was enabled, go to the layer 3 configurations and do that GARP-based detection there. So what we have right now is a trace going here on the leaf of the ACI leaf. So this leaf here where all of these default gateways go back onto, and I'm just displaying the endpoint table here. I'm just running this command here to show system internal endpoint to look at 172.16.19.30, and you can see that at the moment 30 and 31 are shared on the same host. Okay, so they're in the same place. So it's this top storage controller VM that we want to put out of action, see what happens when it fails over. Now, what should happen when it fails over is one of these other two guys will take up the 19.30 IP address, send out a gratuitous ARP, ACI will learn it, and that failover should be in the vicinity of 30 seconds to a minute, I imagine. So I'll go to HyperFlex Connect here, and if you recall, I'd figured out from here that it's 19.31 is the host that's currently hosting the .30 IP address, and that equates to HyperFlex number 1 here, the node number 1 here. So I'm going to put this into maintenance mode, and here's my management station here sending continuous pings, and I'll be able to work out from the time that the pings stop until the time the pings start how long the failover takes. So I'll go into maintenance mode now, and so this being the host that I've just put in the maintenance mode, probably as it's been shut down, we'll send out a couple of ARP requests or something or other, and then that will, and these guys will then have a new election. One of those will be elected as the new master and should send out some gratuitous ARPs. So that shutdown should be underway now. I can look at activity here, but the problem here is, of course, I'm not really going to see the activity here. It's not going to report back, because at the moment it shuts down, then this screen is going to be absolutely useless because there'll be nothing to answer to it. So we'll have a little look here and see which one of these storage controller is on HyperFlex 1, and it's this guy here. So that should get shut down shortly, and we should see some activity over here. Let's see what's going there. There's a it's still doing ARP for, so that's a broadcast ARP. Okay, that's okay. That's just one of the other storage controllers asking. Okay, the controller VM has shut down now, so the pings are timing out as expected, but the ACI still thinks .31 and .30 are sharing that. Here comes some gratuitous ARP requests by the look of it. Who has 30 till 33? No, that's not gratuitous. Who has... No, that guy's not doing it. Here it is here, right? Of course. So here are the gratuitous ARP requests. No, they're till .30 as well. Pretty soon we'll see. So these two guys now are trying to find .30, and so they're not finding .30. That's how they discovered that it's gone away. And so once they've figured that out, then there it is. There's some. Okay, there it is. So there's some replies. First of all, it's sending out some ARP replies, and then it sends out the gratuitous ARP requests. Right. So that's interesting. It kicks the process off by doing some ARP replies. Our pings are back, and we'll be able to stop that and see what's happened. And down here we can see that it's .32 has taken on the IP address. Okay, so the difference now, you're looking at the time here, 14:19:44 to 14:20:41, so just under a minute. Okay, I think we've figured it out.